Today, I want to talk with you about becoming the master of your domain. I see a lot of guys, I talk with a lot of guys who aren't behaving this way. They aren't the masters of their domain. They're not leading in their homes. They're not leading in their businesses. They're not leading in their communities, and they're kind of just passerbys. They feel like to a degree that they're not really supposed to be there. They feel awkward. They feel out of place. They feel like they're renting space, and they don't feel like they are the master of the areas in which they operate. And I can tell you, when you feel that way, it's very disheartening. It's very uncomfortable, obviously, but it's very disheartening because you have this vision and this idea for the type of man that you want to be in your mind, and the way that you're living your life is not in alignment with the vision that you have for yourself. And I know for me personally, this was probably 9-10 years ago, when I was really struggling in my marriage and my business and with my health, is the most frustrating, disheartening time in my life was when there was this disconnect between who I thought I was or who I had the potential to become, and then trying to reconcile that with who I actually was at that time. It's very frustrating. I think this leads to a lot of anxiety and depression and potentially even suicidal thoughts and attempts within men. So the solution to feeling this way is to become the master of your domain. Your domain is any area in which you operate. Now, I hear guys who say, well, I'm an employee, I'm not really the boss, I'm not in charge at work. That doesn't mean that you can't be a master of your domain, because even though you may not have the same capacity as a business owner, for example, or the boss or the employee or the team leader, that doesn't mean that you don't have a domain. You do. You have your cubicle, you have your space, you have your area of operation, and that domain is yours. And when you learn to embrace the idea that it isn't anybody else's responsibility, that your life and your domain is your responsibility, you're going to have so much more success. You're going to start moving into the man that you have a desire to become. Therefore, your confidence is going to improve, and your capabilities are going to be more enhanced because you've exhibited some courage towards those things, because the confidence allows you to do that. It's this compounding effect when you adopt this mindset. So today, what I wanted to do is share with you 6 takeaways, 6 keys, if you will, that will help you become the master of your domain. Number 1, and I'm just going to jump right into this because it's that important. Number 1 is you just have to adopt the mindset. It all starts right up here. Now, you can take action and you can move and you can do the things that you're supposed to do or the things that you know you should be doing, and all of that's great. But if in your mind you have not adopted the mindset that you are in charge, that it is your space, that is your area of operation. When you walk in that door, that house is yours. When you walk into your office or into your cubicle, that cubicle is yours. Your computer is yours. Your office is yours. Your car is yours. Everywhere you show up, you need to learn that that is your space. And I'm not saying that you need to be a dick. I'm not saying that you need to boss people around or be a tyrant or a dictator. I'm not suggesting that at all. In fact, I think if anything, those who are masters of their domain understand that leadership is about service. You're serving other people, your wife, your children, your clients, your colleagues, your employees, whoever it is that you're interacting with, you're serving them. So becoming a master doesn't mean slave driver. It means that inside of your head, you realize and understand and you act in accordance with this being your space and you having the responsibility for it. So as you're driving in your car right now, or watching this on your computer if you're on YouTube, or listening to it as you're doing yard work around the house or other chores, things you need to get accomplished, I really want you to adopt this mindset however you can, that you are the master, that you are the one in charge, that you are the one responsible. And having that mindset wherever you show up, I guarantee will change the way that you show up as you implement these other 5 steps I'm going to talk with you about today. Again, number 1, adopt this mindset. Number 2, take responsibility. All right, I cannot tell you, and I think this is a very immature thought. This is a boy-like behavior, is not taking responsibility for your area of operation, for your domain. And let me tell you this, taking responsibility doesn't mean that you're assuming fault. There's a difference. There's a difference between taking fault and taking responsibility for something. I fully realize that there's situations outside of your control. There's situations that don't always go according to plan. That doesn't mean it's your fault. All right, it might be an employee, it might be a boss, it might be this, it might be that, it might be external circumstances, things beyond your control, but that doesn't mean that you can shirk the responsibility. If you want to be a master of your domain, then you have to understand A, the distinction between fault and responsibility, and B, always be willing to take responsibility. So if you see something out of alignment or out of order or counter to what it is you're trying to accomplish within your domain, it is your obligation and responsibility to accept that burden, to shoulder that weight. Now, I realize taking responsibility is a challenge. It's a struggle. There's pressure, obviously. There's added challenges that come with it. But man, what a powerful, powerful way to operate your life. Again, not that you're taking fault, but that for every area, every engagement, every encounter, every conversation, every project, every piece of trash you see on the ground, a shopping cart that you see in the parking lot, if you decide that this is my area of operations and my domain because I happen to be here in this moment, then you will learn to take the responsibility and you will be able to do something about it. That's the beauty of responsibility. So many guys are willing to shirk that responsibility and simultaneously, whether they're doing it consciously or subconsciously, are giving away any power and authority to do something about their life. See, if you think it's somebody else's responsibility, then you have to sit with your hands tied behind your back, not capable of doing anything that will move the needle because you're waiting on somebody else. I'll tell you, the most success I've had with regards to Order of Man and other businesses and my financial planning practice, and even as an employee and as a father and a husband, is because I'm willing to take responsibility when nobody else is, when everybody's looking around and wondering who's going to do what and waiting for permission to act. I see a problem, I take responsibility for it, whether it's something that is my fault or not, and then I create solutions. That is the order. You see a problem, you take responsibility for it, and you create and propose solutions, and you start acting towards those things. You will make yourself indispensable if you do it that way. And by the way, that's a very important thing to understand, is how to make yourself indispensable. Because there's guys who are listening to this, maybe you, who are working for a company and think, man, if we have layoffs or we have these other problems come up, like I'm going to be out of a job. You should never be out of a job. There should always be opportunity for you because you take responsibility more so than anybody else around you. And this little strategy here will elevate you so much further and above anybody else because they're not willing to do this. All right, number 3 is make a stand. Look, this is part of leadership. You need to make a stand. You need to be very clear about what you stand for, what you don't stand for, what the issues are, what the problems are, what your battle is. I talk about this quite often. John Eldredge in his book, Wild at Heart, says, deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. I want to isolate that first component, a battle to fight. What is your battle to fight? Where have you made your stand? What is the hill that you're willing to die on? And if you can't answer that question, that's a problem. It might just be an indicator that you don't stand for anything and you don't really care all that much about anything. Where are you willing to sacrifice? Where are you not willing to sacrifice? And how are you communicating that to other people? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But guys, if you haven't thought about your vision for your domain, and let's talk about what this might look like, your vision for the way that your family operates, the way that you and your wife lead your children, the way that your children behave, their responsibilities and obligations within the household, yours and your wife's responsibilities and obligations within the household, how you're showing up at work, how you work with clients, what type of clients you're going to take on, and what kind of type of clients you won't take on. Like, have you thought about this stuff? Have you documented it? Have you written it down? I just did a podcast and it's not quite out yet. I'm going to move a couple of things here so you can see with Michael Hyatt, and it's called, it's called The Vision Driven Leader is his newest book, which will be out soon. And I did a podcast on this, but he talks about having this vision and answering these 10 questions, which you can listen to in the podcast. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that or anything else. But he talks about these 10 questions that you need to ask yourself regarding the vision that you have and what type of stand you're willing to make. And are you willing to die proverbially on that hill? Are you willing to risk it all? Are you willing to put it all on the line? And if the answer is no, you probably ought to consider what it is you're willing to do that for. When you're that convicted about a mission or a purpose or a battle, you're going to be very, very difficult to stop. And you truly do become the master of your space and your domain. Number 4, learn to communicate effectively. I'm always hesitant to talk about, like the one skill that you need to learn that will improve everything else or is so much more important than anything else. But I will tell you that the better I've gotten at communication, the more effective I've been. The more effective father and husband, the more effective podcaster, obviously, the more money that I've made, the more promotions I've secured, the more friendships I've been able to build because I've learned to become a great communicator. Guys, this is very, very important. If you've adopted this mindset of becoming the master of your domain, you've taken responsibility, you've got a vision, you know where you're going to make your stand, but you cannot communicate that effectively to other people, you're going to have a very difficult time implementing the strategies and the processes that you're interested in implementing. It's going to be very, very challenging. So I would suggest that you get some coaching. I would suggest that you listen to some podcasts or jump on YouTube and watch some videos about communication, that you look at the great communicators, whether it's speeches, John F. Kennedy's speech about what you can do for your country, or Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. You start to study these masterful speakers and presenters and communicators with an eye and an ear out for what they're doing that is delivering that message clearly, concisely, and powerfully. Join a Toastmasters, join a Rotary Club, look for opportunities to present. Maybe there's a TEDx conference that you can go to and listen to these speakers, or that you could throw your hat in the ring and actually try to present there yourself. The more that you can present, the more that you can practice communicating your ideas, the better you're going to get at, the more efficient you're going to be, and the more effective you are in enlisting other people to your cause. Guys, no man is an island. All right, I realize that we live in this lone wolf mentality. You hear about I'm the alpha, I'm the omega is one that I hear quite often. I'm just telling you, it's like you don't need to go at this alone. You shouldn't go at it alone, but you are going to go at it alone unless you can learn how to communicate effectively with other individuals. So develop that skill, practice that skill, and watch how that helps you become and position yourself as the master of your domain. Number 5, be worth following. Be worth following. Again, you're going to need to enlist other people. Unless you're worth following, they simply won't follow you. I hear a lot of guys will complain about people not listening and people not doing what they say and not being influenced by them. Well, yeah, if you're not worth following, they're not going to follow you. And any behavior that would force people to follow you is tyranny and dictatorship. It doesn't work. You might be able to get people temporarily to do what you need them to do. For example, if you're a boss or a team leader and you're a dick and nobody likes you and you're not worth following, people are probably going to do what you say, but they're not completely committed to the cause, because why would they be? So they're doing mediocre work. They're doing just enough not to get fired, just enough not to be singled out or pointed out by you. Instead, learn to be a great communicator. And also, I would say this is the formula you ought to be after when it comes to getting people to follow you. A, morality, and B, capability. You need both. You need to be a moral human being. And I realize that morality in a lot of your eyes is subjective. And certainly I think there's some things that maybe we could disagree on regarding morality. But when I say morality, I'm talking about being a virtuous human being. And all of us know what that means. We all know what that means. Be honorable, be in integrity, tell the truth. When you mess up, fix it. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Just be a man of your word, work hard, have ethics. Like, we all know what this means. You have to be a moral human being. And If you have any questions about what you should or shouldn't do in a particular circumstance, just do what's right. Well, Ryan, what is that? You know what's right. Just do what's right. And things have a way of working themselves out. It may not work out immediately. If you do what's right, you may expose yourself to some potential heartache and headache short term, but long term, it's all going to play out. So just do what's right. When you have a question, do what's right. That's what morality is. Capability, obviously, is your ability to get the thing done. I heard a great quote from somebody on Instagram. He had left a comment on one of my posts the other day, and he said, because I was talking about morality and capability, and he said something to the effect of, morality is being able to point out what's wrong. Capability is being able to do something about it. Think about that. Morality is the ability to point out something that's wrong. Capability is the ability to do something about it. Guys, you need to have both. You can't just be a moral person, like a quote unquote good person, and not have the capacity to impact your environment, to impact your domain, to become that master of your domain. Like, you need to develop the skill sets. You need to learn new information. You need to be a man of your word. You need to be able to exhibit bravery and courage in the face of, people not seeing your vision immediately, or some non-consenting, I should say, voices. People that don't agree with you. People that don't see it your way. People that hate on you for what it is you're doing. You need to be able to act in the face of that. When you see something wrong, do something about it. Stop yapping about it. Stop bossing people around, and just get the job done. Develop new skills. Focus on what you can do to implement these ideas and be moral. Just do the right thing. When you're that type of individual, I promise you, all of these other things are going to start to fall into place. People are going to follow you. People are going to be excited about where you're going. You've casted vision. You've taken responsibility. And now you're actually influential in their life. You're somebody worth following. And the last point number 6, and this is a little counterintuitive based on what I just said about being worth following, but number 6 is you need to have a willingness to walk alone. Now, I'm not telling you always should, and I'm not telling you this is the end result or objective, but I am telling you that if you can't learn to walk alone, at times you're going to have a very, very difficult time doing anything meaningful in your life. You have to be able to walk alone. Because when you start a project or a mission, or you're pivoting gears, or you're changing who you are within your family dynamic or your work environment, people aren't going to believe in you initially. Because you might frankly have a track record that says you're not somebody worth believing. And I know that might sound hard. I know that might sound frustrating to you, but look, the reality is the reality. You've spent 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years operating in a certain way, a certain mindset, and people are responding to you based on how you've been acting. And all of a sudden, if you start to change who you are by implementing these strategies and everything else that we talk about within Order of Man, people aren't going to initially follow you. And that's okay. You need to be willing to walk that path alone. When I started Order of Man 5 years ago, nobody, except for my wife, and even her, she had questions about it, but nobody believed in what I was doing. People thought it was stupid, or that it was silly and it wasn't needed, and they didn't get it and they didn't understand it. But you know what? They do now. They get it now. And they weren't hating on me. These were people who just didn't understand, or didn't care to understand, or cared about me and didn't want to see me throw away my financial planning practice that I had built up over the course of roughly 10 years. I get it. I understand. And I held no ill will against these individuals. But you know what? A lot of these same individuals are my biggest supporters now. They're the people who share what we're doing. They're the people who send me messages and say, "Hey, Ryan, I really appreciate what you're doing. You helped me in this way and that way. Man, it's so cool to see how far you've come." These are the types of messages I get from people because I was willing to walk alone. I was willing to go against the current, against the grain. That's a hard thing to do because everybody's going to tell you not to do it. And I don't think the overwhelming majority of people are devious in their desires for you not to do that. I just think that they have some their own self-esteem issues. A lot of people just care about you and don't want to see you mess up. I mean, who wants to see their friends and their family mess up? You don't want to. So people say, be careful, be safe, don't take any risks. That doesn't make you the master of your domain. It makes you weak, it makes you cowardly, and it makes you produce mediocre at best results. You need to be willing to take that stand, like I had mentioned in point number 3, and you need to be willing to walk alone for a little while. And you know what? If you do, and you stay true to your purpose, and you stay true to your mission, and true to what you want to accomplish, and the fact that you want to be a king of your environment, every environment that you show up, people will begin to follow you. People will see, oh man, Dave's committed, Ryan's committed, Steve's committed. He's like in this thing. And whether they vocalize it or not, they'll begin to see it and they'll act in accordance with your ability to lead yourself, and they'll decide to be led by you. So let me recap these guys. I want you to be a master of your domain. I want you to thrive. I want you to win, just like I do. And if we want to do that, then we have to adopt, number 1, this mindset that wherever we show up, that space becomes ours. I remember my stepfather. He played football, and he was very, very good, very athletic. And I played linebacker in high school. And I remember we were talking about going up for a pass, as a linebacker. If the quarterback's throwing it to a receiver that's coming across the middle, he said, Ryan, you have every right to that ball as much as the receiver's trying to catch it. You have just as much right to go after that football as that receiver does. That is if you think about that, just like stop for a second and think about that. That's a very powerful way to live your life. You have every right to be successful. You have every right to lead. You have every right to achieve the results that you're after. That is your right. Now, whether you exercise it or not is up to you, but you have the right to that. And I want you to be the master of your domain. I want you to adopt this mindset. I want you, when you show up in your house and you walk through that door, you walk through like a damn king of that castle, because that's who you are and that's how you behave. When you go to bed with your wife and you want to be intimate, that you are the master of that domain, that you're assertive, that you take charge, that you show up the way that you want to show up, the way that she wants you to show up. When you walk into your office, I want you to walk up with your chest out, your shoulders back, and you walk in there like you own the damn place, whether you do or not. And this isn't a show, by the way. I'm not talking about faking it till you make it. I'm talking about adopting these 6 strategies so that you feel confident doing that and you feel like you have the right to do that. When you walk into the store, I want people to stop and look at you and wonder, what is it about that guy? That's how you become the master. So number 1, adopt that mindset. Number 2, take responsibility. Again, not fault, not the burden of blame or fault. Responsibility. It's different. You need to take responsibility for your actions, take responsibility for the environment around you. If you see a piece of trash on the floor, yeah, maybe you didn't throw that piece of trash there, but why wouldn't you pick it up? If there's a cart hanging out in the parking lot and it's like not in its place, like why wouldn't you just go put that away? Oh, because Ryan, it's not my fault. It's not my thing. Well, what if you decided to take responsibility for it? Andy Frisella, he talks about pee droplets on the toilet. That's not your pee. Hopefully you didn't pee on the toilet. So just clean it up. Just clean it up. Oh, but that's gross. I'm not going to do that. Okay, well then just keep living your mediocre life. Now, a lot of guys are going to have a hard time connecting that. Like, what does wiping the toilet seat off have to do with being a master of your domain? I'm telling you, if you adopt it in the mindset of these like small, seemingly insignificant issues, like putting the cart away or picking up a piece of trash or wiping the seat off, like you're going to implement that in other facets of your life. You're gonna talk with your clients more assertively. You're going to get the education and the training and the schooling and the skill sets that you need because it's important and you realize it's important. Everything is important. So take responsibility. Number 3, make a stand. Have a vision for what you want to accomplish. Know what you'll stand for. Know what you won't stand for. Number 4, communicate that effectively to the people who will be impacted by the decisions that you're going to be making. Your wife, your children, your employees, your colleagues, your coworkers, your clients, your friends, whoever is going to be impacted by what you're doing, be able to communicate that effectively and gain that knowledge, which leads into point number 5 is be worth following. Morality and capability. You can't just be capable. If you're not a moral human being, nobody's going to follow you. You might be the best, whatever. salesman, power lifter, jujitsu practitioner, communicator. But if you're not moral, people aren't going to tune into it. And you can't just be moral without having some sort of capability to go with it. So be worth following. And point number 6 is have that willingness to walk alone, because you'll need to. If you're making improvements and changes in your life, you're going to notice very quickly that people are going to be hesitant to follow you. It might be because your track record, it might be an indicator of something that they may be dealing with, but for whatever reason, you're going to walk alone for a while, and it's okay. You need to be okay with it. And if you are okay with it and you walk alone and you follow these other 5 steps, in addition to that 6th step, you're going to find you're not going to walk alone for long, because people are going to believe in you. They're going to rally behind you. They're going to recognize you as the master, the king of your domain, and they're going to want to be led by you, directly or indirectly. So there it is, guys. I hope that helps. I mean, 30 minutes isn't a lot of time to talk about these issues, but you know what? If you like what we have to share, you can do a couple of different things. First, subscribe to the podcast. We're talking about this every single week, and they're very powerful strategies for you showing up as a man. In addition, I would encourage you to join our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council. This is a band of brothers, 530 members, roughly, give or take, who are all leading themselves, leading each other, communicating about this stuff, developing new skill sets, holding each other accountable and putting each other's feet to the fire on what it is they want to accomplish. And it's a very, very powerful way for you to band with other men who want to achieve and want to see you achieve. You can check that out at orderofman.com/Iron Council. Guys, we'll be back on Tuesday of next week for another powerful, powerful interview. Make sure you subscribe. And as a parting note, I would also ask that you leave a rating and review. It goes a very, very long way on iTunes, if you would, for promoting the visibility of the show. So give us a 5-star rating. Give us a quick review. Tell us how good this show is. And yeah, that'll help. Okay? Be the master of your domain, guys. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Go out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.